Hi, I'm Matt with Etrailer, and if you have a 2024 Ram 1500 and you're just trying to haul maybe some lumber or anything that's pretty long in the back of your vehicle that you can't fit in your bed, then the Erickson Ladder Racks is going to be a great option for you. So let's check it out. And that's going to be the case with most ladder racks. We'll be trying to get any of those longer items above our cab, so anything like your ladders, lumber, or anything for those work situations. What I really like about this one is it's a pretty simple installation and you really don't have to make any modifications to your vehicle at all. And this kit is going to come with 3 parts. That first part is going to be this load stop here. This is pretty nice, simple to use. You're going to have this side here that's going to help keep your load from shifting around as you drive, making those turns. You also have this open design, so if you need to tie anything off, you can do that right here. Really easy to adjust. I'm just going to loosen up this hand knob at the bottom. Once that's loosened up, I can either slide it one way or to the other way. Now, the one thing I don't like about this type of load stop, or the way it's mounted on here, is going to be because where our tower is located. Because this is wrapped completely around this crossbar, so if we try to get it at this location right here, we won't be able to do that. Now, checking out the actual crossbar is nice because we do have a tapered end on both sides. This is going to make it more aerodynamic for when you're driving down the road. Now, if you try to get any clamp-on accessories around here, that might be a little difficult. Sure, some will work with that, but that is a decent amount of space to get around. This is definitely going to complement those work situations a lot more, where you have those items that are just sitting on top of these crossbars. But what really makes this kit really simple to use is going to be the tower. Because we don't have multiple pieces that plug into one another like a lot of other ladder racks. This is just one whole tower welded together. And we're going to be holding it in place at the base on our bed rails. The way that attaches is you're just going to have this plate. We're going to have a bolt that goes through, connects to a nut, some washers to hold it down. Really simple to use, and you don't have to do any modifications to the base of here either. Now, since this is more of an entry-level ladder rack, you'll notice we do have a couple sections that do have some gaps. We still get a really good fit. If I'm really pushing on it, it might move slightly, but this is definitely not coming off your bed rails. Now, a lot of more premium ladder racks will actually have some padding underneath there, and they look a lot more level than what we're getting right now. Something to watch out for is when you are installing this is it might kind of scratch up those bed rails or make things a little bit less clean looking. Now we're going to get a few measurements just to see how this is going to live back here. So the first measurement I'm going to get is going to be the distance underneath our crossbars. That's going to be about 46.5 inches. It might vary just slightly depending on if you have a bed liner or not, but that's going to be plenty of room to put those more larger or taller items back here. And what I like about this is we're not blocking any of our back window, so you don't have to worry about that either. Now the next measurement I want to get is going to be the total height it adds to the whole vehicle. So if I just go from our bed rails to where that load stop is, that's going to be about 34 inches. And that's just something to consider if you're going through any low clearance areas, anywhere like a garage. Now, something else to think about too is we are above our cab, and if you are wanting to get a roof rack, this will pair really nicely. Now, it might not be completely level with it, but this would be a great combo. If you have any of those longer items that are going way past your cab and they're getting a little bit of bend to them, a roof rack's just going to add a little bit more support to them overall. And now for the overhang, this isn't going to be too much. Really, this is going to be pretty much level with the side of your vehicle, so you don't have to worry about that sticking out on the side of the road as you're driving. Now, the second thing to consider is going to be our crossbar spread. And a crossbar spread is important for putting different types of gear on here. So if you are trying to get things other than just lumber, ladders up here too, things that have a set crossbar spread that they need, then that's something you just have to double check. What's nice about this though is you can adjust where this sits, so if you need a longer or shorter crossbar spread, you can easily do that. Now, a few things to consider when you are moving these around is there's only set locations you can do that at. So one way to check is just by going underneath here and feeling if there's anything in the way of you trying to mount this. A couple spots to really think about are going to be closest to your cab or your tailgate, these spots where we have these indentions. And this is going to be able to handle quite a bit. So the weight capacity of the rack is going to be up to 800 pounds. So what I recommend doing is actually checking what your bed is rated for, which it should be quite a bit, but if you have anything in the bed as well, anything that's really heavy like some generators, just make sure you're not exceeding the whole weight capacity of your bed. In my opinion, I think this is a great option if you're more on the entry-level side and you're just hauling every now and then. You don't need to constantly haul that lumber or those ladders. Now, if you're looking at some other options, then I'd recommend checking out the Thule Track 1 ladder rack. It's going to look very similar to this, and it's going to have some load stops with the same weight capacity. But there's going to be some other variations that have a cantilever at the very front end of it, so if you have those extra long loads, you'll be able to accommodate for that. And it's going to feel a little bit more sturdy compared to this, because at the end of the day, this is more of an entry-level ladder rack. But like I said, if you're just doing this more on the light duty side of things, just something to get those longer items from point A to point B occasionally, then I think this will be a great option for you. Now, if you are curious about the installation, it is pretty straightforward, but if you need any tricks or tips, just stay tuned and we'll walk you through the process. To begin the installation, I like to lay everything out. You probably noticed too, I already installed the front crossbars or the ladder rack. It's going to be the same process for both of them though. And where I like to start is going to be those load stops. So if we look down here, we're going to have the load stop itself. We're going to have 2 bolts and we're going to have 2 lock nuts. And you're going to use a 1/2" socket to tighten them down into place. The way you want to put this on is you'll find that we have this bracket on the crossbar. We want to make sure that knob is facing down. Once we've done that, we're going to line up this load stop with these 2 holes, the 2 holes on the bottom of here, making sure the flat side is facing towards the inside of your crossbar. Once we've done that, I'm just going to grab these bolts, slide them through. I like to put my nut on first so it doesn't fall out. Do that for the second one too. And from here, you can tighten it down if you like. I actually like to wait to tighten it until it's on top of our roof. But once you have this one installed, you can repeat that same process on the other side. And next up, I like to get my towers set up. So the important thing with setting up these towers is making sure you get the right one in the right location. So this is what it should look like. So on your tailgate side, we should have those holes facing inwards. And notice how the actual tower is closest to the tailgate, where we have the rest of the platform in front of it. That's how it's going to look like on the tailgate side. On your cab side, it should be vice versa, where the tower itself is closest to the cab and the platform is furthest away. Once we've established that, then I can put this on here, and really you're going to be finding where this sits best for you. So if you want something that's going to sit close to your tailgate, just measure it out for that. Now some things you're going to have to watch out for is underneath this rail. Because a lot of times, if you have a bed liner like we have today, especially a drop-in one, it's going to be angled right here, and that can get in the way. So what I recommend doing is taking off this bolt first. Once we have that off, I'm going to make sure that this platform is facing underneath the bed rail. I'm going to slide it up till it pops through that hole. I'm going to make sure it's flush under here. Right now I can tell it's not flush, so I'm just going to try to adjust that. There it is. And that's just something you're going to have to work through with if you have a drop-in bed liner. If you don't have a drop-in bed liner, it should be flush against the bottom of these rails. Once you have that flush underneath the bed rail, then we're going to put a flat washer on. We're going to put a lock washer on, and these are going to be the larger ones that come with your set. And then we're going to take that nut again and just loosely tighten it on. We don't want to fully tighten this down yet because we still have to place the second one on. And this one can get a little tricky if you do have the drop-in bed liner, because you won't be able to really lift up on that tower to get everything lined up. So what you can do sometimes is just shift this out a bit, slide in like that, push it in, and just keep adjusting until it feels flat underneath there. And then you just really repeat the same process. Once you have this first tower installed, you repeat that process on the other side. And you also want to make sure everything's even, so they're kind of at the same spot in relation on your bed. So what you can do to do that is just measure from the end of that base to where your tailgate ends, because it's going to be the same on both sides, and make sure it's even. If you already have one set installed, you can also just use from where this one sits to where that first one is in relation, and just repeat that process on the other side. We're at the stage now where we can put on our crossbar, and I haven't tightened these towers completely yet. They still have a little bit of play in them. The reason I do that is just in case I have to make any adjustments later on. So first, we're just going to make sure this fits well up here. We're just going to be grabbing these two carriage bolts, sliding them down, and we're going to try to line them up with these two holes here. Just making sure it fits in there neatly, just like that. Once we've done that, we're going to go to the other side and repeat that process. And now the crossbar is mostly on, and what I'm trying to do is to get this as flush as possible. So this is actually looking pretty decent to start off with. I'll make some more adjustments later on. Sometimes you might have to wiggle these bolts a bit at the bottom of it. And right now, I'm noticing I have a lot more overhang on one side as opposed to the other side. So what I'm going to do is just kind of grab onto my tower and just tap on it. Just sort of shift over a bit. And each time it moves some, just kind of get a measurement to see how much overhang we have on one side and make sure it's the same on the other. Once I have everything even up top, then I'm going to come back to the bottom and start to tighten everything up. I'm going to grab that 3/4 inch socket. And I like to use a longer one because these bolts are pretty tall. If you don't have that option, I'd recommend just using a wrench. And now we need to secure that crossbar to the tower. And sometimes things might shift, so I just recommend rechecking these bolts, making sure they're popping out all the way and everything feels pretty flush. Once you got to that stage, we're then going to put a flat, a locking washer, and then a nut on here. And these will be the smaller sizes we have, except for that nut. Then we'll just get that hand tight. We're then going to repeat and put the other one on the back side of here. And then finally, we're going to grab an 11/16 socket and tighten this down into place. And when everything feels pretty good on here, I recommend just finishing it off with this load stop. So you can shift this wherever you want it to sit. You can change it later on pretty easily, so don't feel pressure. You're just going to come to underneath it, tighten up that hand knob. I think tightening this up first makes it a bit easier to tighten because, like I said earlier, we're going to have these smaller nuts on here. That's going to use a 1/2 inch socket. I'm going to grab a wrench for the back side of it so it doesn't shift on me. And once I have it down, I'm just going to tighten it up the rest of the way. Once I have the first one tightened down, I'll just repeat that process with the other one and then do the same thing for the other load stop. And really the last step is just going to be testing it to make sure it feels pretty sturdy. So just come by, give it a good shake test, make sure it's not moving or rattling. And if it feels pretty good, then you can take it for a ride. But that's just a look at the installation and some of the features of the Erickson Ladder Rack on the back of our 2024 Ram 1500. I'm Matt. Thanks for watching.